Lisa, good morning. Nice to see somebody that we know's there. So Lisa is, as you've said, is the relatively new Chief Executive Officer of the NBN, a role that she's held since April. I spoke to her briefly not long after she took over, and her talk is entitled "Making Data Work for Nature." And so, Lisa, with great pleasure, over to you.
Thank you, John. Can I just check that you can see my slide now and that you can only see my slide rather than the sort of view of all the slides? See what I mean?
Yep, that's looking good.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, I'm really excited to be here for my first ever NBN annual conference. And I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak to everyone. I have to say I was feeling rather daunted by following on from Craig Bennett, so at least that has given me a little bit of a boost that I don't have to follow in his shoes, because I know he is an excellent speaker. But welcome from me as well, everyone, and it's really wonderful to have you here. What I'm going to talk about, I only have 15 minutes, and I'm planning to rattle through the following areas. So a little bit about my background, what brought me to the Trust, the highlights of my first few months in post, an introduction to our new strategy, a little bit about optimism in conservation, and a call to action. But first of all, I want to say a big thank you. Now, I know most speakers save their thanks for the end, so it might seem a bit odd to do it at the beginning. But prior to joining the Trust, I spent 5 years working in philanthropic fundraising, a world in which thanking people and thanking them again and again becomes as instinctive and habitual as breathing, and it's a habit that sticks. So I'm going to start by saying thank you for joining the conference today. Thank you for making me feel so very welcome in my first few months. Thank you to so many of you for helping me get up to speed. And an even bigger thank you for all that everyone here in this room today does for biodiversity. The NBN is an incredible community that really is making a difference, and I'm so proud to be a part of it. So a little about my journey to the NBN Trust. No prizes for guessing the decade. Flared jeans, parka jackets and wellies is, I think, an underrated fashion combination. Don't you agree? I was fortunate to grow up on a farm in North Dorset. My parents were tenant farmers, and I was mad about wildlife. I was a young ornithologist club member. I was a watch member even before it came Wildlife Watch, and I devoured books by David Bellamy, Johnny Morris, Gerald Durrell, all of the I Spy books, obviously all of that. So that really, I think, set me on my path in nature conservation. At university, things took a decidedly fishy turn, and I then spent 15 or so years working in marine biodiversity conservation, everything from public engagement, teaching and training, citizen science, through to advocacy and campaigns, policy and legislation, before then moving on to senior management roles in the voluntary sector, public sector, and then the academic sector. But the common thread through all of this was communication. I'm really passionate about sharing my love of the natural world, building partnerships and empowering people to make a difference. Now, despite focusing primarily on marine biodiversity, I spent most of those years working for organisations that were primarily terrestrial in focus, which meant that I had the joy of rubbing shoulders with a great many wonderful people from the biological recording and biodiversity data community. I haven't done a huge amount of recording myself, bits and pieces over the years, and I'm only now starting to get back into it. But looking back, it's actually been there some pretty significant times in my life. I spent my 21st birthday recording butterflies. I spent my 40th birthday recording seaweeds, and I even met my now husband on a sea search course 20 years ago. So I'm sure we were the first and maybe the only sea search wedding. So I don't have a huge track record in recording, but it's certainly been a really significant part of my life. And what has always struck me most about recording is the wonderful people you meet, people who are incredibly knowledgeable, but often so humble as well, and so very generous with their knowledge. So the NBN Trust felt like a natural fit for me when the opportunity came around, and I was absolutely thrilled to join the Trust in April this year. It's been the quickest 8 months of my life, I think it's fair to say, and the absolute #1 highlight has been getting to know the amazing NBN Trust team. I've only met the team in person once, but it truly is a joy to work with them. People often express surprise that we're not larger than we actually are. This is the whole team, from left to right: Purba, Mandy, Sarah, Katie, Sophie. Now, Sophie, you'll be glad to know we don't actually have a poster of you on the wall, but as you weren't able to join this meeting, I thought I'd include you on the wall for this. Justin, who has recently left us, so we are looking for a new developer currently, Giselle, and Helen, who is our lead developer. And the appointment of Helen was another of the highlights of my first few months in post. Helen has joined us after 20 years in industry and initially joined us as a contractor, but she fell in love with the NBN Atlas, as so many do, and was persuaded to stay. So I'm really excited to have someone with her experience on board. We are a small team, we need to grow, but we are a wonderful team, and I'm so very grateful to have everyone working with me with their passion and commitment. Another real highlight, and you'll have worked out by now that I'm very much a people person, has been meeting many, tens, dozens of people across the NBN during my first few months in post, and I haven't worked my way through my complete list yet. If I haven't been in touch with you, I'm sure I will be soon, and obviously today is a great opportunity to meet more. Moving on to the new strategy. Now, if you attended the NBN conference last year, you might be feeling a sense of déjà vu to be sitting on Teams hearing about the NBN Trust's new strategy. And the reason for that is that my predecessor, Joe, presented a near final draft of the strategy last year. However, with the change of CEO and significant changes on our board, with 5 new trustees joining, the decision was taken to pause the finalisation of the strategy until the dust has settled. So the new strategy will be published now in the coming weeks, and I don't think there'll be any surprises for you following the extensive consultation that Joe and Giselle undertook previously. But the pause enabled me to address some of those comments that came through loud and clear from your feedback. In particular, a desire for the Trust to be bolder and more ambitious, and to communicate our ambitions more clearly. So a quick sneak preview of our new strategy then. First of all, we have, I think, a more compelling and aspirational vision that nature is thriving everywhere in all its diversity. So firmly setting our sights on a future in which the natural world has bounced back to health. Our mission is simply making data work for nature. In other words, providing the evidence that's vital for nature's recovery. We have 4 ambitions within the strategy, and the first is all about the NBN Atlas, making it the go-to place for sharing and accessing biodiversity data. Not the only place. You know, I think there's so many reasons why there will always be a variety of places to go to share and access biodiversity data. But we really see the NBN Atlas as the hub at the centre of all that. And we've got a lot of work planned in order to make the very best of that. So, for example, removing barriers to data sharing, introducing access controls, enhancing stability and functionality, promoting use, particularly in research and education, where we've seen a huge boom in use over the last couple of years, and partnering with others to develop new products and services. Our second ambition is that biodiversity data is providing the evidence needed for nature's recovery. So as you'll be hearing about later, we will be delivering Scotland's Better Biodiversity Data Project. You'll also be hearing more about plans within England from Natural England later, and we see ourselves as fulfilling key functions within England's biodiversity data framework, increasing global sharing through the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, promoting data standards and principles, and partnering with others to develop and pilot new approaches. Our third ambition is that citizen science is recognised and supported as the major source of biodiversity data. So we'll be providing a voice for biodiversity citizen science, making it easier for recorders to find projects and for projects to find recorders, promoting and supporting iNaturalist as one of several key recording tools, monitoring new apps and tools and ensuring that they're integrated into data pathways, and again, partnering with others to help secure the future of recording. And then finally, our fourth ambition is that the NBN is a well-connected and highly collaborative community with a united voice on key issues. So we'll be looking to grow the NBN, targeting key gaps where the community is underrepresented. We'll be looking to build consensus on key issues and foster collaboration, and to speak out for biodiversity data and the huge impact that it has. But in addition to the four ambitions, they are all underpinned by our commitment to sustainability, because none of the ambitions will be achieved if the trust isn't financially viable and able to grow. So we're making a commitment to grow and diversify income streams. And we also understand how critical it is to invest in our staff and to prioritise well-being. We want the trust to be a fantastic place to work. We also want to address, importantly, our footprint as an organisation. Now, well-being is such an important thing, particularly with where we are at the moment. And I guess we all have days when we wake up feeling like this, that we just want to hunker down, shut our eyes and pretend it's not happening. I'm naturally a card-carrying optimist, but I too have days like this when I guess you could say I've lost the faith. But I do genuinely feel that this is an exciting time to be working in biodiversity conservation, and I wanted to share those reasons. Reasons to be cheerful then, again, showing my age. Firstly, I really believe we're starting to move beyond rhetoric, of course, which there's been much rhetoric, but we're moving beyond that to real action. With all these influential reports, from the Dasgupta review to the Geospatial Commission report, and with new post-Brexit legislation coming in, I really feel that change is finally in the air, building on the foundations of everything that we've done for the past 20, 30 years and more. Second reason to be cheerful is people. For decades, the biodiversity data community has been expressing real concern about the future of recorders and recording, and the wider loss of nature connectedness in society. But it really feels to me now like the ground is shifting, with so many people reconnecting with nature, with lots of intergenerational learning. And I know there's still a big gap between, for example, people having their first go on iNaturalist and becoming an expert verifier of others' records. And there's lots of work needed to bridge that gap. But I really feel hopeful that we're now heading in the right direction for a sustainable recording community. And the third reason is because none of us are in this alone. This slide shows just a fraction of the organisations involved in the NBN, and what we can achieve by working together is far beyond what any of us could achieve alone. So just to wrap up then with a call to action, get in touch. I'm going to be out and about virtually as well as hopefully in person more in future, meeting NBN members, and I would be really delighted if you would get in touch. Get involved as well. We have lots of different ways to get involved. We'll be reinvigorating our stakeholder groups, our Atlas steering groups. We've also recently started a user group for iNaturalist, and we'd be delighted if you'd get involved in that as well. I have mentioned partnering, collaboration throughout the talk, and that's, I think, a really key component of the NBN Trust's future. We are a very small organisation. There's so much more power and influence in partnering, and I think there's a huge variety of different ways that we could partner with you in future. Of course, particularly if you haven't already, I would urge you to explore and use the NBN Atlas. And really importantly, I would like you to spread the word about the NBN And particularly if you know any great Java developers who are looking to move into an impactful role in nature conservation, then please send them our way. But more widely, please don't be shy, spread the word about the NBN and let us know if we can help you with that. So thank you again. It's really wonderful to have you on board. I'm so excited about the future. I'm proud to be a part of the NBN community and I'm looking forward to working with you all. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for that. It's a super quick, super clear summary of what we do and where we're going. It was great. We do have 5 minutes for questions. There are not going to be any verbal questions. You can enter them as we said earlier into Google Docs. They're being sort of sorted. And can you put the questions, any questions that have come in, to Lisa, please? Any questions come in, anybody? Goodness, I'm not muted. It's all gone quiet. Can you hear me, Lisa?
I can hear you. I'm aware there have been some issues with the chat function this morning,
okay.
and I wonder if that's part of it, but Mandy might be able to advise whether we have any questions. But I'm here all day, so no problem if not.
Mandy, do we have any questions?
It's Sarah here. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Lisa,
can you, Sarah? Yeah.
Hello, hiya. There's one question that's just come in from Simon Rolfe that says, how do you envisage the NBN Trust being in 10 years' time?
Thank you, Simon. I envisage in 10 years' time the NBN being, even more than it is now, at the centre of the biodiversity data pathways across the UK. And I see us being much more proactive in terms of enabling people to use and access and share biodiversity data. So, for example, I see us being involved in delivering biodiversity data services and products, helping identify and develop novel ways to communicate biodiversity data through visualization, through other tools. And I also envisage us having a more prominent role in citizen science. Now, of course, you know, we've been there sort of behind the scenes on citizen science with our role within the biological recording community for some time, but I really see a unique role for the NBN Trust in being a voice for biodiversity citizen science, and I think that there's a great deal we can do to achieve that. We're going to need to grow, and I see us in 10 years being somewhat larger, having a variety of different income streams, including commercial revenue, because we will need that in order to be able to grow. And I see us being, as I mentioned in the talk, much more active and proactive in terms of seeking opportunities to collaborate with others to deliver specific tools, initiatives, and so on. I hope that answers your question, Simon.